Welcome to the race preview for the 2019 Silverstone British Grand Prix. You know the drill here. In our previews, we do predictions. We have a little look at how things are shaping up for the weekend through both first and second practice. However, first of all this week, you're going to get a few changes. Firstly, the brand new, in quotation marks, graphics package is here, which you're going to see throughout this entire weekend. Also, as you may know, I'm attending the British Grand Prix this weekend, so unfortunately there's going to be no qualifying review this time round. And also something just to quickly clear up as the Constructors' Championship pops up onto your screen. The other day, awful timing, I set to pre-record, I was at work, I set to pre-record a video to come out whilst I was at work at 3 o'clock, all about the future of the British Grand Prix. Also at 3 o'clock, Silverstone announced a 5-year extension for its deal with Formula 1, so awful timing, super unlucky, but that's how some things go sometimes, so yeah, not ideal for me, made me chuckle a little bit, but it's great to see that Silverstone's got that 5-year extension now, and this won't be the last British Grand Prix. And as the Drivers' Championship pops up on your screen, going into Silverstone, it is the Brit Lewis Hamilton, I was going to say dominating the championship. I mean, 31 points ahead of teammate Valtteri Bottas. This is a track which Lewis is supreme at, so much so that he goes into this weekend looking for a record 6th British Grand Prix victory, which would be the most ever owned by one driver. He's in the car, looking most capable to do it. It should be a pretty smooth weekend for Lewis Hamilton. However, it wasn't Mercedes setting the pace in first practice. Indeed, it was Red Bull. I mean, a crazy first practice anyway. Plenty to dissect and talk about with you guys, and in FP2 as well. But Pierre Gasly topping the first session of the weekend, albeit went for almost a last-ditch run at the very end of the session, put on the softs, low fuel, almost a confidence builder lap from Gasly, over half a second quicker than Valtteri Bottas. I do not expect that to be repeated at any other point in this particular weekend. However, Gasly being up there in the times, I think that'll put a smile on his face, and I think going into this weekend where he does really need a big result, that's exactly what the Frenchman needed. Bottas P2, Verstappen P3, but Verstappen half a second off Valtteri Bottas' pace on the same tyre. Lewis Hamilton was P4 on the medium tyres, a second off Gasly's time, but half a second off Bottas as well. P5 and 6 were the two Ferraris, Leclerc just beating out Sebastian Vettel. Then was the two Renaults, Hülkenberg 7th, Ricciardo 8th. Albon was P9, and the last man in the top 10 was Carlos Sainz in the McLaren, a team that just confirmed over the past week that both Norris and Sainz will have a contract extension going through to next season, so both of those drivers will be confirmed at McLaren for 2020. Lots to talk about in the first session, so let's just crack on with it then. And the ideal, not completely ideal if you're a Grosjean fan, but the place to start is Romain Grosjean's afternoon. Not quick at all, right at the bottom end of the timesheets for both Grosjean and Magnussen. Beat the Williams, but only just. Grosjean, an awful session. Spun in the pit lane, pit exit. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. For a team that really are struggling with both drivers this season, it's just getting worse and worse. We had the bizarre news involving Rich Energy this week. Are they staying? Are they going? We don't know. They show up, and before they've even done a lap, Grosjean loses his front wing. You know, to be fair, that did have a lot of Rich Energy sponsors on it, so I can see why he wanted to drop those pretty much instantly, but not ideal. Also had a spin later on in the session as well. So did a whole host of other drivers. Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, George Russell, Lando Norris. Really catching the drivers out this year is Silverstone. Has got a brand new track surface. This year has all been relayed, and with strong wins at the circuit this weekend, really seems to be that it's a little bit, I suppose, unpredictable. you could say, and it's catching a lot of drivers out, and we do often see this happen in practice and not always come to fruition later on in the weekend in qualifying and in the race. But it really does seem the amount of spins that we've been seeing in these first two practice sessions, we could see something quite interesting, I would expect. Another big story from the first practice as well was Kimi Räikkönen, his car stuck in 7th gear. No news on whether he's going to have to serve any penalties just yet, so we're going to have to wait and see about that one. But he came to a stop at the Luffield section. Again, no news on any repercussions going forward, but again, not an ideal start for the weekend for Räikkönen. Shall we talk about FP2 then? Another crazy session. More spins, more issues for Grosjean. Grosjean himself, I mean, there's Räikkönen getting out of his car on screen now, but Grosjean himself, a hydraulic issue making matters even worse for the Haas team. Magnussen seems to be the better driver on, well, both Friday and Saturday. Grosjean this entire year has really struggled to set up his weekends, has had lots of issues during practice sessions. Qualifying hasn't gone his way either, but in the race he seems to have better race pace this year than Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen's only outraced Grosjean once this season when they've both finished, but still, the start of the weekend for Grosjean. He's going into qualifying and third practice tomorrow with very limited running. Williams as well, we can expect them to be at the back of the grid, but more issues for them. Kubica spinning out of the final corner. However, a bit of good news this weekend for Williams is that their title sponsor, Rocket, has signed a 5-year deal, which I think is quite nice for them. And to do it at the British Grand Prix, where they're celebrating 50 years of Sir Frank Williams in Formula 1, that's brilliant. It really is to see for them. To have a bit of stability and a bit of reassurance, I think that's something, just put a smile on my face, I believe. As the top 10 come up on your screen now, you can see Mercedes on top. Ferrari with Charles Leclerc just 2/10 behind Valtteri Bottas's best time, but Mercedes looking in control, heading into Saturday, heading into qualifying, and I imagine they're going to be pretty untouchable in the race. Vettel a little gap behind his teammate Charles Leclerc. Leclerc himself, fun fact, is on the biggest podium streak currently of any driver on the grid. He's got a podium all the way back in Canada, then got a podium again in France. Last time out, almost got his first win in Formula 1. Verstappen took that away from him and took Red Bull's first of the season. But Leclerc is on that podium streak, looking good to take that form into this weekend as well. Try and claw back some more points over Sebastian Vettel. Maybe could be a bit of a surprise of the weekend. It's a track he's gone well at, so we'll have to wait and see. Gasly P5, once again, outperforming Max Verstappen. Norris P6, but Verstappen in P7 did have the medium tyres on compared to the rest of the top 10 that were running the soft. Sainz was P8, just, I suppose, cementing now. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, the pace of the McLaren, but really cementing that these guys, I think, are almost pretty clearly best of the rest. Which, looking at the end of last season, where in Abu Dhabi, Brazil, the last couple of races, they were fighting with the Williams team at the back of the grid. What a turnaround they have had. And I know a couple of days ago, McLaren released a statement thanking Van Dorn and Alonso. Yeah, I've got to say, the work they did last season to, well, improve so much for this season, you've got to take your hats off. You really do. Albon P9 once again. Could be a resurgence in pace for Toro Rosso this weekend. They've really been on the back foot the last couple of weekends. Can they turn it around? Albon, at what is arguably his home Grand Prix, he's not got points for quite some time now. I think he'd like to be back in the spotlight a little bit, because I think, especially over the last 3 races, both Kvyat and Albon have gone under the radar quite a bit. So both of them need a little bit of a boost. And Albon, who drives under a Thai licence, born in London, I think he will use this as his home race for now. But maybe when Vietnam comes in next year, races like Singapore, a little bit closer to Thailand, he might also consider those his arguably home races. But technically, Silverstone is also his home race. And finally in P10, home race for Racing Point, however, mostly owned by a Canadian man. All a little bit strange, but they have confirmed this is their home race. Perez in P10, another team struggling for points at the moment, and will hope at the British Grand Prix they can secure some points. I think that covers everything from practice. A lot to look out for this weekend. Lots of subtle changes on the cars as well. Updates, not as much as we've seen over the past few Grand Prix, but especially going into Germany. A few guys trying out a few different bits and bobs to then bring an even bigger update next time round in Hockenheim. The most notable change, I think, on the grid, rather than just a few novelty helmets, if you will, from guys like George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, is the James Bond sponsorship on the Red Bull. Looking really, really cool. Red Bull really do sometimes just know how to do marketing absolutely perfectly. And this is something which, again, doesn't mean a fat lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's just really cool. And it's why Red Bull is regarded so well in the eyes of many of the fans. There's also got a little number plate on the DRS as well, which is, yeah, that for me, that was pretty awesome to see. But here on screen, you can see my predictions for the British Grand Prix. And qualifying, we've gone with your bog standard, run-of-the-mill, Mercedes 1-2, Hamilton pole position at Silverstone, Leclerc P3. But in the race, I've gone with a Leclerc victory, Hamilton P2, Verstappen P3, Gasly P4, and Vettel P5, with no Bottas in the top 5. I've got a gut feeling there could be a little bit of an upset on the opening lap, just like there was last season. And also, I think if we have a safety car midway through the race, there's talk that Ferrari are going to have to do a two-stop strategy. Mercedes can do a one-stop, and we saw last year, Mercedes had a chance of the victory. However, a late safety car really helped out Ferrari, also helped out Hamilton last year. To be fair, I've got to put my hands up to that, but I think potentially that could play into Ferrari's favour. We're just going to have to wait to find out. Again, won't be covering qualifying tomorrow. The race review will be out on Monday, so things are going to be a little bit messy this particular weekend. But if you're attending the race or not, I hope you really enjoy this year's British Grand Prix. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.